Good afternoon, podcast community. My name's Kim King. This is Three Questions Podcast, episode number 63. I have some very exciting questions. This is a solo dolo episode as well. I am here recording some stuff, trying to get some content out this afternoon, and want to say a huge thank you to everybody listening. Whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify or any of the other places I've listened to the podcast, it means a lot to me to have people come onto this podcast, not only as guests, but as listeners and submitting questions. I know we're gaining some traction, and it's a time investment. I know podcasts are a time investment, and I'm trying to make this as the best way possible for you to listen to content and get something from experts and professionals, and then also my point of view. As you know, Three Questions Podcast, for those of you listening, mostly my clients, is a subsidiary of CK Collective. ckcollective.co is my site, and that is for marketing, coaching, consulting, personal growth, self-development, all in one-on-one sessions for clients. I do weekly group calls as well as weekly one-on-ones with text coaching in between so that people can work on their personal and professional lives. Really started out as a side business for me. When COVID started, I got laid off as a global new business director, and I had been working in marketing and advertising for 12 years. So I started executing sales and marketing plans and teaching entrepreneurs and other business owners how to be better, both personally and professionally. My day job looks a little bit different. If you know what I do for my day job, you know that. So all of this is really a big side project for me. And hopefully this podcast can serve as a launch point for you to either learn something or for you to network with someone that is a guest on here. If you want to be a guest, you can always reach out to me, threequestionspodcast@gmail.com, or you can submit questions. Again, you can also submit stuff through social media, where on occasion I will post clips when I do have the time to do so. So without further ado, this is episode number 63, and we'll get into question number one. As you know, the questions are just 5 minutes a piece, and I came up with some pretty basic ones for this. I don't know that I've ever talked about these, but let's hop into it. Question number one. What is my favorite movie? Oh man, my favorite movie of all time. First one that comes to mind, and again, I say this with my 2 cents. Depends on the season, depends on the emotion, depends on where you are, depends on what you're feeling. Emotions in movies go hand in hand with how you're feeling or how you want to feel. And so I'll say all time, my favorite movie that I probably have seen the most is Tommy Boy with Chris Farley. I just love that. I love a good comedy. I still think he's one of the funniest people to have ever lived, and that movie just gets me. It was embedded in me at a very young age. But right now, I think if I had to pick, my favorite movie is probably Sicario. I love the original Sicario with Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin and Emily Blunt. Everything about that movie was just fascinating, from the music to how stone cold people are in that movie. It's just something about it. I don't know that I would ever want to live any part of that lifestyle or experience anything that they go through in that movie, but Sicario is probably my favorite movie. I love all action movies. I love obviously military movies, 13 Hours in Benghazi, uh, or what is it? 13 Hours, excuse me, 13 Hours, Zero Dark 30 is what I'm thinking of. Man, everything. Lone Survivor, American Sniper. I love a lot of the guys' movies. Wolf of Wall Street, pretty much anything with Leo. And it's very tough. I love movies, but right now I would probably say Sicario. I'm craving a good movie for tonight as well. I'm just getting over the flu, so I think I need to come up with some self-love time, which is just watching a movie that kind of fills your cup up or at least takes you away from that. My favorite thing about movies in episode 61, if you listen to that, I talked about being able to fill your cup up. And something that a client has taught me in the past was that they schedule this thing called nothing box time. This guy's so busy, he's a C-level executive at a big agency, and he's talking to me about how he fills his cup up. And one of the things that he does is he schedules nothing box time into his busy schedule. So if you're like me and you write things down in your notebook about what you're going to do, and I have everything from my 6:30 wake up to my 8:30 p.m. studying to everything in between. I have every single hour of the day mapped out. And as I look at that right now, I'm behind schedule of where I wanted to be. But how I fill my cup up now is I schedule nothing box time in to just say, nope, I'm not working. This is dedicated time to do nothing. And I think more people should try and do that. So in episode 61, simply talk about operating from a very low, very filled cup, and how often that led to burnout. And I think for you, if you think about your favorite movie and then schedule in some time to do that, that's self-care, that's self-love, and that's one way that you can start to fill your cup up more often, which is why I came up with the question of my favorite movie, because I'm in need of filling my cup up a little bit more, and doing some nothing box time as a reward for getting some work done can be a good thing. And if you reward yourself too often, you completely kill your motivational drive to get anything done. So do not put the reward before the work. And if you start to randomize your rewards after doing the work, that is a way that will incentivize you to work harder or work more often for a potential reward. So that's it. That's all I have for question number one. I'm going to cut it off there. Question number two: what is my favorite music? It's pretty funny. I want to talk about brainwaves really quick, because there are brainwaves that people should know and understand, and you can actually induce different brain states in different moods and emotions by inhibiting or listening to different frequencies or sounds. One of my favorite apps, most commonly used apps on my phone, is an app called Brain Waves. And they have hundreds and hundreds of different meditations. Insight Timer is also really good too for meditation and breath work and just other frequencies. But brainwaves, you can actually, they've narrowed it down. So if you want to study, or if you want to fall asleep, or if you want to wake up, you can actually listen to a different frequency. 432 megahertz is a primary frequency of nature. So when you're walking in nature without technology, you're actually being affected by nature's natural uh, uh, wave, which is 432 megahertz, which has a healing aspect to it. It's a healing component, and it actually can fill your cup up. That's why people feel so good in nature. I swear to God. And what happens when you induce these different brain waves and brain states? You have things from alpha waves to beta waves to delta waves, theta waves, and I think even gamma. And theta and gamma can be used for imagination and or sleep, kind of creativity type stuff. However, alpha and beta brain waves can primarily be used for work, and then delta and even gamma waves can be used for sleep or sort of meditation purposes. And these different brain waves allow you, will literally change your brain's activity depending on how long you listen to them for. And it can be really productive. So if you're in a work mode, listening to alpha brain waves for a long time can inhibit, for too long, it can inhibit anxiety. But for a long time, about 45 to 50 minutes, you can actually get a lot of work done. And what happens is, if you look at today's modern music, if you take these brain waves and these different frequencies out that are out there, you can actually see and apply them into a lot of different things. One of my favorite genres, Spotify will tell you, is metal. I love metal and hardcore stuff, and I love that. And that there's a lot of actual like alpha and beta brainwaves in there. Obviously, there's a lot of screaming and heavy drums and heavy guitar, and I love it because it gives me energy. I find that music really is energy giving for me. It doesn't really take it away, but if I listen to other music, I find it to be very distracting. And I've started to look at different types of music and what kind of waves or frequencies that are layered into it. And a lot of them are actually really distracting. So, for instance, 432 megahertz is a frequency of healing, of relaxation, of sleep, of nature. That's a primary one. But 440 megahertz can actually induce anxiety and depression. And that's layered into a lot of movie soundtracks, and especially very intense scenes that are drawn to make you feel uneasy, especially in horror films or something. I don't have any concrete examples right now, but my looking into this is it's very interesting. So, ipso facto, long story short, when I do work, sometimes I will listen to metal. Also, I'll listen to like deep house music. If I really just want to like get moving and grooving, I'll listen to deep house music. I tend to go for like EDM or metal. I very rarely put on things like, like Latin jazz music or whatever else, but I can't do country music. I can't do any of the regular normal pop stuff. I hate it. It just doesn't speak to me. It doesn't resonate with me. But loud, fast, heavy music and fast electronic music are like my two things about how I balance out, especially when I'm working or when I'm in the gym or when I'm driving. Anything else is just kind of, I can't do it. It doesn't really make me feel anything. And those two genres are probably my favorite genres of music. And if you're watching on YouTube, one of my favorite bands is Veil of Maya. I think they were my number one on my Spotify playlist. So that's all I have for that. It's about 4 minutes, teaching a little bit about brainwaves. And I'm going to stop it there. So, question number three, favorite morning routine. This is a pretty simple one. And when I think back to a period in my life about when I was absolutely crushing my days, it was shortly after I got laid off as a global new business director. This is probably April 2020. And I thought about starting this consulting company for a few months, and I decided not to for a couple weeks. I applied to about 200 jobs and I got zero interviews. I was living in Denver at the time, and I was like, screw this. I'm gonna start my own company. I started CK Collective, and I said, I'll figure out what that is. And then it got into marketing and advertising and teaching that and executing sales and marketing plans. And now it's more personal development and coach based and one-on-one based. And I had a mentor at that time who put me through a dopamine fast. So for 60 days, he put me on a dopamine fast, and that was no coffee, no sex, no jerking off, no porn, no dating, no social media, no fast food, no sugar, no alcohol. I did all the things. And for the first probably week and a half, 10 days, I was miserable. I was depressed. And then week two was better. And then week three, I was like, I've never felt this before. And then the last 3 to 4 weeks of me doing that, 3 to 4 to 5 weeks, I just developed this bulletproof morning routine where I was waking up at 5 and I was doing something called the 20-20-20 method from a book called the 5 a.m. Club. And the 20-20-20 method was simply 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of light exercise or stretching, 20 minutes of reading or writing. And so I would do this every single day until 6 a.m. And then I would put on my running shoes, take my dog out, and we would go run for 30 minutes. And I would look at these PowerPoint slides of affirmations that I had, and I would read them out loud, and I would feel them. It was like I would write down affirmations that I wanted to be the future me, about how I wanted to feel and the things I wanted to accomplish in life. And I acted and felt like they were already done. And I would go and do that for 30 minutes. I would stop by the river, this little riverbank, and I would meditate for 10 minutes or do breath work, right? So I'd be sweaty, my dog would get to run in the water, and I would meditate or do this breath work thing for 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'd walk 5 or 10 minutes back to my house to cool down. And then I would take a cold shower. I would take a freezing cold 2 minute shower. I would get out and I would start writing, or excuse me, I would immediately go to breakfast. I would continue listening to a book, or I would call a family member. This is about, 6:30 or 7 now. So I'm making breakfast and eating between 7 and 7:30. And then I would finish eating by then, and then I would journal for about 10 minutes just about what I wanted to accomplish. I would review my to-do list that I wrote down the night before, and then I would just kind of script my how I wanted my day. Hey, I'm full of energy. I'm gonna go lift in the afternoon. I'm gonna do jujitsu tonight. I'm gonna whatever, call a family member, and I would just script some things in my journal about how I wanted to feel, how I wanted the day to go. And then I would be getting to work by 7:30, 7:45. I worked from home at the time. Everyone did. It was COVID. And I would work till about 11:30, and then I would take my dog to the park, go walk around the park, play in the park for an hour. We'll also eat lunch, eat by like 12:30, 12:45. I'm done, back to work for about an hour or two. And then 2:30, I would go to the gym. I would lift super heavy until about 4, come back. I would shower, and then I would probably get another hour or two worth of work done. And then I would go to jujitsu from like 6 to 7:30, come back, eat, shower, clean, take my dog for a walk again. And then I would probably work to like, 10, 10:30, maybe even 11 sometimes, and then get another 6.5, 7 hours of sleep and do it all over again. And I did this for an insane amount of time. And I just watched like this period where I literally eliminated all distractions. My day was super, super productive. I was super healthy, and I was able to get my mojo back. And it was an incredible period of growth and transformation for me. I just went through a really shitty layoff, a really shitty breakup. In this period where I pushed everything out away from me, did this dopamine fast, I was able to get my mojo back. And then I was able to say, okay, like, cool, I'm ready to start dating now that my cup's full. I'm ready to, hang out with my friends again. I'm ready to get back on social media. And I remember by pushing everything out, I was able to start bringing things in again at a much easier, much better pace. And that morning routine turned out to be an entire daily routine. And I did that for like 5 or 6 days. I did that pretty much 7 days a week. was kind of working all the time. Weekends, of course, I'd go for hikes and spend time with friends, but it was an incredible period obviously I was living the bachelor life too at that point, but like putting out dating and all of that other shit for like 60 days, I got so much of my energy back. And I would encourage for anyone listening to this podcast, go and do that shit for 60 days and your life will completely change. And you'll always look back on that time period, those 2 months, about being like, that was optimal. I was at my best. I was looking good, feeling good, actually doing business, making money, and pushing the needle forward in every single direction. That is a very difficult thing to do for most people. I don't know that I certainly wouldn't be able to do that now. But looking back for anyone who's at a low point in their life and is able to sort of construct these routines, doing something like that seems wild and rational is exactly what you should do. That's what you need. That's how you're going to experience the most growth in the shortest amount of time. Yes, it's going to be tough, but I guarantee that will change your life. I can't say it enough. Anyways, that's all I have for Three Questions Podcast, episode number 63. I hope this has been really productive for you. If you want to send in questions, you can always just shoot an email to threequestionspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to book a free session, I'm offering 2 free sessions right now for anybody visiting the site to just see what I'm about and experience a few of the things that I've learned to help my clients grow personally and professionally. It's not just me sitting there and talking advice, but I actually game plan and strategize and keep my clients accountable so that they grow in 6 fundamental categories. That's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, academic, and financial. And if you want to grow in those 6 areas, you can work with me for free. I'm offering 2 free sessions right now. And yeah, that's all I got for you. I hope this has been extremely productive. And I can't thank you guys enough for listening. If you want to sign up to be a guest, you can go to ckcollective.co, click on the podcast tab, enter your information. I would love to have you on. You can talk about whatever it is that you want. Nothing's off limits here. But these are quick hitting podcasts designed to share information, disperse information, so you can listen to this in 15 to 20 minutes and be better for it. That's why I started this. This is all for you. Thank you guys very much. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.